On today's episode, what do old stories and classic novels actually teach us? Not talking just about those timeless truths, as they say. Let's dive deep. Mom's here. Let's have some fun. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Books, Banter, and Beyond. And today we're going to talk about what old stories and classic novels actually teach us. Obviously, other than the things that they say they teach us, like, being kind and loving everybody and whatever else. Um, so this one came about because as I was reading through nonfiction books and also some other ones, it came to my realization that not every book kind of is just that generic, like, oh, good guy wins, bad guy doesn't, because you come to realize there is no such thing as just the good or bad. There's the neutral, there's the ambiguously good or the,
Right.
eccentric, whatever. So I thought, why not discuss from various theorists and literaries what it is that classics are truly teaching us. So the first thing that I came about was they teach us what humans don't outgrow. So one reason that stories survive all this time is not because they're the perfect formula, but because they return to the same unsolved problems.
Right.
Literary scholars note that books like The Odyssey or the various plays of William Shakespeare are so popular still, not because they resolve a problem, but they stage them.
Hmm.
And I love that right there because for those who have read any Shakespeare plays, you'll understand what that means.
Mhm.
There's always an issue that is purposely brought forward, whether it's jealousy, whether it's hatred or overrule. I think the best example would be Macbeth, where the uncle from the get-go wants to kill his brother, the Macbeth's father,
Right.
to take over. And right from the start, you have this whole setup of things. And even if you read through it, you still don't really get a final solution. You kind of get the, well, this happened because this happened, but what exactly was the moral of the story there?
Mm.
Something like the Odyssey as well, when, Odysseus is sent to go do his journey, when he does come back, yes, there is that, reconnection. He re-sees his wife, who also was doing some things while they were gone, but there's no final everybody's happy. There's still a lot of unanswered questions.
Which is life,
So,
which is
which
what
is
life
life,
is,
right?
right?
It should never be as clean cut as, oh, I went on an adventure, I came home, and now everybody's happy. Um,
That would be nice.
Historian Yuval Noah Harari has argued that stories are how humans organize meaning around, as you just mentioned, recurring experiences, not how they progress past them. So classics are teaching us the struggles, not the how to fix said
Right.
struggle.
They want to
Um,
make us feel, right? They wanted to bring us into the feeling of this, the emotionality.
So a question I have, is there comfort in realizing that we're not uniquely kind of broken in terms of that? And if you think about it, these stories prove that we all share that similar problematic thought process. What do you think?
I guess. I don't think I read feeling to be part of a bigger people. So I think, wouldn't you think that it depends on how you approach the books you pick and the stories that you read, maybe?
Right. I mean, I think the question is more so like when you do realize that the general idea is that, we're dealing with the problem, not the solution, does that give you a little more okay, not as bad because it's just kind of an overall thing. I'm not necessarily saying you're copying the person next to you, but when you read the book and realize it's just
Right,
a general
right,
idea, for me, it's like, okay, yes, it still might suck that you have to do it, but at least it's the overall suckiness
right.
of, you know,
That'll work.
it is now. So not only do stories show the problems that we deal with, but also it trains our judgment and our doing of how we're going to work
Right.
through them. So unlike something like a fable, classics and older stories do not tell readers what to think. They refuse to close the case, and it makes me think of what's his name? The fables with Aesop's fables
Subs
that
fail.
basically taught you a lesson at the end of it. So he
Right.
would say, that he used all the animals in it. So instead of something like that where it tells you the purpose, a classic really gives you more, okay, let's use your brain to
Which
see
I
if we
love.
can figure
Critical
this.
thinking, right? Let's use some critical thinking in this. Yeah.
So Aristotle argued that tragedy teaches through recognition, seeing ourselves in the flawed characters. Using a work like Beowulf, that many of us have read, heroes are often admirable and destructive at the same time.
Sort of
So,
like us, right? Sort of like human,
exactly.
right?
This ambiguity then trains readers to weigh responsibility, consequence, and motive all equally through your moral choices.
Right.
And in this way, classics teach us that judgment under uncertainty, not obedience to the rule per se.
Right.
It's all very interesting. And then lastly, here, classics teach us how to read ourselves over time. So one of the most overlooked lessons of literature is the text doesn't change, we do. Let that sink in for a minute.
Right.
If you'll, and we've talked about this many times,
Right.
books don't necessarily change the formula. We change how we see it through
Right.
periods
On
of.
who we are, how what's going on in our world, how we've been taught, right? What we see, we come to it with our own judgments, I think is what you're saying.
And that's why one reason why I've come to the okay with, okay, fine, every story is going to be exactly the same, because that's the point in the long run. Every science fiction book will give you the same sort of ending
Right.
because that's how it works. But not just how it works, it's also it's reminding you the purpose of life, of you alongside this
Right.
fictionalized world.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that.
And then, lastly, classics become measuring tools, not for the story, but again, who we are when we meet that challenge. And this is why they endure and why they continue to endure. So I think a best ending question here is, do you have you ever read a classic that continues to make you think, or do you read a book, an older book, that just proves once again, oh, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing? And for me, I think the answer is a big yes. I think
Yeah.
almost everything continues to remind me that what I'm doing is exactly what I should be doing, because
Yeah,
that's
I agree 100%. I mean, I have reread the same book every year called Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill.
okay, right?
And every year I read it, I get something different out of it because I'm in a
Okay.
different place. I'm in a different place myself. So the way I'm interpreting it is different. I don't know if you ever read the book. This is from way, way back in the 40s, I think, like last century. And Napoleon Hill actually interviewed people that were like the top of their game. Ford, the guy who and what was similar amongst all of them. And I'm in different stage of my life. So when I read this, I go, oh yeah, I actually experienced that, or I've seen that personally, not just
Right.
something
And the book doesn't change, but how you
I
see
changed.
it.
And so when you said that earlier, definitely, I think it's who we are reading it versus the writer who wrote it. The writer certainly wrote it for a certain reason, with a certain goal, with a certain direction,
Right.
and hopefully we all saw that. But I think if we reread it, I don't reread a lot of books, but that particular one is a perfect example. I think.
I'd be curious to actually ask anybody watching how often you do that, because I know a lot of people do reread, but I also know a lot of people, once you read it, you kind of just put it away and you're done with it. So, for me, I think it takes a very specific book to want to reread, but I do definitely get the same feeling you do. When I pick up a book that I haven't read for a while and I reread
Right,
it, the book hasn't changed, the story's the same, but you definitely learn something new depending on what
right,
you're doing at the moment of reading the book.
right.
So I
I
would always tell people, like, I would always recommend anybody watching, like, if you haven't touched a book that you like in a while, read it again and
if
see
you
see
get
what you get
something
from it.
different or exactly the same, and sometimes it's exact, and I do think it's more the nonfiction books rather than the fiction books. If you reread a fiction book, it it's the story, and the story is still the story, and that in my head is still the story. But a
Sure.
nonfiction book, where depending on who you are at the time that you're reading it, you might interpret it slightly different. I know you have fiction and nonfiction books in your bookstore, the Next Chapter Bookstore.shop. Go check it out. We're curious. Would you rather read a story that changes, or you change when you're reading it, or would you like to read it and get the same exact feeling after you read it? I'm curious. I really am
Good question.
curious. Like, let us know. Let us know. Any last thoughts, Rob?
As I always say, go read a book.
Bye, everyone.